The new book-style foldable from Oppo is the thinnest phone on the market, as long as you keep it closed. At 8.93mm thick, it's barely thicker than an iPhone 16 Pro Max, and it's thinner than any other book-style foldable you can buy, even last year's Honor model. Technically not quite the thinnest when you open it up. At 4.21mm, it is still really thin, and the thinnest book-style foldable, but it's technically slightly beaten by Huawei's Mate X-T Trifold, which is a teeny tiny 3.6mm when open. That phone is thicker when you shut it, but that's partly because there's 3 bits of it rather than 2. In fact, the Find N5 is so thin that the USB-C port is basically the only thing holding it back from getting any thinner. Oppo said it had to design a custom version of the port just to squeeze it into the device, and there's barely a hair's breadth of metal between the port's edge and the edge of the phone itself. Basically, we're not getting any thinner than this until we ditch the port and go fully wireless, and that feels like it's a while off. Despite that, you still get a pretty big 5600 mAh battery, thanks to some nifty silicon carbon tech, which is enough to run for 2 days at a time on my testing. That's plenty as far as I'm concerned. Durability is obviously still a bit of a concern with any foldable. Oppo is keen to point out that this is the first foldable with an IPX6, X8 and X9 water resistance rating, meaning it's good for both submersion and splashes from water jets. But the big X in the middle of that means there's no official protection from dust, and that is much more worrying for me. Plus, it's still a foldable phone. These things are fragile. There's just no getting away from that. The bigger downside for a lot of people is going to be that the phone simply isn't coming out in the US. We thought it might appear stateside as the OnePlus Open 2, but sadly OnePlus has confirmed it has no plans for a foldable phone this year, meaning the Oppo Find N5 is it. It is coming out across Europe and most of Asia and some other parts of the world, but if you're in the US, it's import only, I'm afraid. The other question for me is just, where do we go from here? Foldable phones are not really going to get very much thinner than this, and we've already got top-tier performance, a really excellent triple-rear camera, big battery life, a nearly invisible screen crease. I just don't know how the hardware gets much better than this. We've obviously got trifold phones on the way, we've got rollable phones coming at some point too, but really, I just hope the next generation is cheaper. Is that too much to ask?